Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday, April 3rd meeting of the Community Preservation Committee at Town Hall. And we're ready to go. First on the agenda is the presentation for town meeting, which I put together a report that I sent to everybody that had one error on it, but I fixed it. But long story short, I went up to the Board of Selectmen on Monday night. No major issues, lots of questions, but they didn't have any real issues. I'd say one of the things that we didn't know was that the Patriots Park group and the veterans are not aligned on what the memorial should look like. So there was a lot of discussion. There were a lot of veterans, and there were the Patriots Park people, and there's a controversy about the form of the statue. But on the legal side, town council's memo came back and said that it was okay to use the money for that memorial. So I talked to some of the folks involved, and I think the town manager is going to try to get everyone together and see if they can agree on a design that makes the Patriots Park people happy.
So they didn't like the
No,
traditional statue?
I think they had an initial design that they liked, but I know I didn't catch the whole thing, but I know like the rifle sort of part of it, they thought they were okay with the sort of plaques, but the rifle thing, they were saying that it just didn't fit with the Patriots Park. I'm not taking a side. I'm just saying that the characterization of the Patriots Park caretakers was that didn't fit with the other designs at the park. And there was some talk about like, would the kids run up and get on the rifle and stuff, and
that's a
things
good
like
point.
that. So, because it is, when you see where it's placed, it's kind of like there was a triangle that they took in one of the paths up there, and so it is sort of out at the edge. Like the biggest memorial is, it's well set back and it's kind of got a lot of room around it. So I think there's some merit on both sides, and
It's interesting because
they're a
it's
little
sort of like
angry.
the centerpiece of the whole proposal as far as like the
Yeah,
symbology.
yeah.
So I don't have an opinion either way. I just
Yeah.
find that fascinating. But
Yeah.
you know,
No,
it's good having conversations and figuring
I get
out.
it. Like, I think that's what has to happen. People got to talk about it and come to a conclusion. So, that's
Sounds like something
that.
that could be worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think around the sides they had, for each conflict they had a kind of a plaque, and then in the middle they had that. So, but that was that. They had a lot of questions about the private home pilot, which is understandable because it's new. When we talked about some of the guidelines, and I think what they were saying too was, making sure it's on materials. They could see like, hey, if you have to buy a window that's historically accurate versus a replacement window, that's a real cost that someone have to bear.
We talked about a little bit at the plan group meeting, and I think E10 was at the select
Yeah.
board. And one of the things that he said, and I think is a good idea, was that we may want to do some sort of clawback in one of these, like, you don't want to have somebody come make an application, get
flip it.
$5,000 and then sell the house in 6 months.
Right.
So,
Right.
something like that might be part of it, yeah.
But otherwise, everything else was, I would say not controversial at all. No issues, a lot of questions.
What about the lodge? Any thoughts
The
on
lodge
that?
was fine.
It felt good with
Terry and I had a meeting with the lodge and Rick Gorman on Monday morning, and the lodge was amenable to every condition. So,
It seemed like they would be.
yeah.
It was good to get them all set together and get it over with, get done. How did Melissa ever answer you on your letter to her about the house down here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. On Schofield Mill, she said yes, they would take the money that was allocated and hire an engineer, so.
Good.
Makes sense.
um,
Should be interesting to
Yeah,
see what happens.
no, so I'll,
When they do the inspection.
I usually come in for a meeting after town meeting when we're talking about the grant agreements, after everything's been approved. So I'll bring it up again when we have that meeting, because I'll usually come in and meet with Melissa and Christine, and, we go through which projects need grant agreements, and, stuff with the town, is a little less, with the school department, we'll have to do one, because it's not town land. So we'll have to put those together. But so overall, it went well. I'm going to use the same presentation for the Finance Committee. I'm going there next week. Tim has done a lot of work and had some conversations with the folks at Ridgewood. And I think it's useful to kind of look at the whole idea that there's a financial benefit to the town of having Ridgewood there, that there are all these costs we're not doing. So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit in terms of.
It was actually the spirit of something that Terry said at that meeting, as well as, the town needed a cemetery, and what John and Joe said as well, saying, the cost is going to be incurred in one way or the other. So I followed up and I started doing it myself. I'm like, wow, this needs, someone's got some inside information on doing some comps to other towns. What other towns similar have their own cemetery? What do they cost? And the problem they obviously would run into, as I knew they would be the town has a DPW that's probably bucketed money for the DPW, and they don't take time cards and say, oh, you spent this much time in the cemetery. So they don't have a finite comparison of one to the other. But I said, you can make assumptions, just document your assumptions, and be prepared to talk about how it would cost this town here X if we ran it ourselves compared to, and how do we know that? Compared to this town. So I think this is important information for the Finance Committee in particular, who I know they voted against a Ridgewood grant application 2 years ago. That one sort of went through because of the way the whole voting went down, Terry, if you recall. They took the complex, the athletic field complex, and took that away, and everything else was voted on at one time. So that voted pretty fast. So I've suggested that to both John and Joe, and as suggested, they have that ready if they can for the Finance Committee meeting.
I know Lawrence has a separate division, but they're not the same size, so it'd be a tough comparison, but I know there's, it's completely separate. There's a cemetery division.
You could do things such as take Lawrence and say, okay, fine, here, if you had X number of people in town, ratio it.
Yeah.
It's bigger than a bread box, so you fit it in.
Yeah.
That's all. That's good.
Yeah, I think it's a good conversation to have, and really, and I talked to them about it, and I said, you really shouldn't put Ridgewood on. You shouldn't have put Ridgewood on both applications, because it's really not Ridgewood that's getting most of the money. It's the second burial ground. And I said, so I wrote the project. I titled the project Second Burial Ground, because I think when we go back and look at the accounting, we're going to want to make sure it's bucketed with that group. So.
That's a good idea.
So we did that. And then, let's see. Sorry. And then we have some questions on closed accounts. There's one that's a little bit, so Zach has produced a memo, if you want to pull that up. It's in the packet. So as we go through these, I think, why don't we talk about the first three projects? Should be pretty simple. They're done. Project 1411, Patriots Park, there's 0 remaining, so we can zero that out. Ridgewood boundary wall from last year, there's 0 remaining in that as well, project 1407. And the emergency generators for the Housing Authority, 1362 from FY19, there's $600 remaining, but they have indicated all the work is done. So for those 3 projects, do we have any motions?
I'll make one.
Sure.
That motion closed,
Was it?
3.
Okay, a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, okay, it's unanimous. We'll close projects 1411, 1407, and 1362. Project 1381 has stalled out. It's the gateway improvements to the historic causeway. That stalled out, and when we look at the report, you know, essentially, they've only spent $27,000. Talking with National Grid, and it just doesn't seem like National Grid is engaged. You know, I'll read it out loud just so we can get it in the record. It was a site walk with National Grid in April of '22. At that meeting, the National Grid representative from the Right-of-Way and Survey Engineering Division did not express any concerns and communicated that we will have a letter of authorization to file a notice of intent application with the Conservation Commission sent to me as soon as possible. The site survey and the landscape were designed in the spring of 2022. A permit filing with the Conservation Commission has been prepared but not submitted, as it requires National Grid to sign off as a property owner or provide a letter of authorization. National Grid has been reviewing the project documents since early February 2022. Bid documents have been prepared to the extent that they can be. National Grid has been contacted multiple times since April 22. However, we continue to be unsuccessful in obtaining a letter of authorization to file a notice of intent application to allow for regrading of the Stevens Street parking lot, conduct test borings, and installing water stops on the steep slopes. This effort has been escalated to the town manager on 3 occasions, who has reached out to her contact at National Grid. So, you know, we all know we're talking about, you know, sort of the Wire Hill exit, the Wire Hill entrance off of Stevens Street, that parking lot, and then sort of up underneath the railroad tracks. And so it seems like it's sort of stalled out, and
Who's coordinating, administering the project on our
I would
side?
say like Gene, is that?
Gene Enright.
Gene Enright.
Right, yeah. Has she done anything recently? She's never brought it up at the planning board.
I've talked to her on multiple occasions, and she's brought up the town manager, and both of them are in agreement that at this point, that's kind of just stuck, and the best way to go is just, you know, just to close it out, move on.
Well, why would we want to do that and not do the project? Especially after we spent money.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter Boynton, he won planning board, was the guy that was most involved in it. He was the patron of this. I mean,
I don't
we
think
shouldn't
that's-
walk away from
I don't
this.
think that's where we're going in though. So I think it goes in at Stevens at the railroad bed,
Oh,
a little,
really?
little
Okay.
further down. It's about 100
Yeah.
yards down,
Yeah.
closer to the condos.
Okay.
And it's all flagged out there. So if you
Yeah.
walk that trail, I've walked it, it's all got blue flags all over it, all the way down. And you could, and then there's one section where there's quite a few, a big open area where they've flagged out quite a bit. So somebody flagged it out, I'm gonna say, those flags can't be that old. I mean, I would say sometime last fall or summer that was flagged out. So I don't know, I assumed things were, something was
Yeah,
happening.
and I mean, just because you can't get National Grid to respond or not, I mean, we have a certain amount of leverage over National Grid to say
They
the
come in all
least.
the time looking for
I
stuff.
mean, they're always looking for something from
Right.
us in front of the different board. And, I mean, they're not the greatest in terms of the community support, but nonetheless, I find it hard to believe that we're going to not do a project just because they didn't respond to our note.
So if we're looking, for standing in front of the beach, we're talking about something to the left side, Terry, as opposed to the
So-
right side? Because the right side is where the parking lot, I saw pictures, diagrams of where the parking is supposed to be.
Right, so Right, so then there's a railroad bed that runs all the way down the back side of the lake.
Yeah.
It comes out down where everybody fishes, down by the, down on, near the edge of Great Point Road. So that whole railroad bed all the way across, but what they're doing is that archway, that railroad archway where you walk under when you go by, that whole area is what's being impacted.
Plus also look like you're adding more parking spots to the side there.
Yeah.
I have to agree with John. I mean,
Okay.
we put 27,000 into this thing. It's like throwing it away.
Well, I guess, the question really becomes, will you have enough money? And now, if we approved it in so we approved it in 2021, it's now we're talking about, it's 2025, so.
I mean, that's possible.
Yeah.
We ought to just look and see, I mean, figure it out at this point, what needs to
Maybe
be
you could
done.
have Gene come in and,
Yeah.
explain it,
No, I mean, National Good was at the select board meeting on.
yeah, they're always there, they're always looking for another pole or something.
Yeah.
And I saw, they've used their leverage on them before, they told them, we're not gonna give you another pole until you
Yeah.
did some other things that they've needed, and then all of a sudden you get a response,
I'm
pretty
down
quick.
for some pole twisting,
Okay.
so. A little punchy.
So I mean, I would say it's kind of the sense I'm getting from the committee is we'd rather investigate than close it out at this time.
Yeah, it's worth another try.
Okay.
Must have paid somebody a lot of money to flag all that out.
Okay. All right, so we won't do that. Thank you, Zach, for putting the accounts together. I know it's a lot of work to follow up with everybody. And
Would any of the local electeds, as far as like the state reps or the state senator, have any access to some of the people at National Grid?
Sure they do.
It might be an option that,
But you know what, I think the town has plenty of, next time you come in, bring your signature,
yeah.
you know?
sounds good.
Okay, so we got that done. There's another account that came up sort of late in the day. Not entirely, I think it's just a question we're gonna have to deal with next year. But when the Housing Authority came last for emergency generator last year, they put in, we always say like, what's the funding gonna be? Because some projects are multi-year funding. So we approved 75,000. And the normal course of business was we were approving, like, year one, we were approving the drawings and the preparation and the bid documents. In year two, they would come back with an estimate and we would approve it. And the director of the Housing Authority was under the impression that the one application would cover the whole thing, but we only appropriated $75,000. So unfortunately, I think at this point, I think it's, it's too late. It's, we didn't anticipate it. We've always appropriated money on a yearly basis, even if it's a multi-year project. So I will write back and say, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to come next year and we'll get it done.
She'll be down for that.
What?
She'll be down for that.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, we're just
unfortunate.
telling her how important it is to get some face time.
right.
So she's been very receptive to that.
Do they have an estimate?
No, not that I heard about today. Just, I think they thought like, okay, they came and they were all set to, but, we didn't.
They weren't.
And like, if they didn't have an estimate, that would have been fine. They're a public entity. They have to bid anyway. So, we know, if they had, we always award on kind of an engineer's estimate and take back the remainder. So, I wasn't worried about the estimate. I was more worried about just the application. So that's that. And then, just, coming to the town meeting presentation, I was gonna just put a table together and try to vote, since none of the items are gonna be bonded, my hope was we'd just go up with the table and try to make it quick. I think it's gonna be a raucous town meeting, given the past year. I'll always have sort of the project detail if we need it, and I can put something up on the screen, but I think this might be the year to sort of put it up there and do whatever. Maybe I'll do like one slide on, I always do like to at least go back to the town and say, hey, we have 18 million, we're spending 4, we'll get another 3 next year. So we are sort of spending more than we're gonna generate this year, but you have years like that, and we have a lot of years where we don't, where we approve $1 million and we get 3 or 2.5, so this is just and I'd say the reason it's a big year is we've got, Johnson Street and the cemetery, those are the big ticket items, and everything else, I think, falls within the normal parameters of what we're awarding in any given year. So I don't think it's a very controversial year. And I'm not aware, I also just, FYI, and thinking about town meeting and sort of our appropriation for the fields, this is public information, but I did read that the appeal of the judgment in the Fields case was rejected as of, dismissed as of early December 24. So that's, sort of good, at least if anyone starts talking about, our participation in that, that's out of legal jeopardy now, I think. And while John, as a defendant, would know a little better, I don't know.
No, it is, it's funny because in all of the years I was in the planning board, we used to have like times where we were getting sued every year. And then we didn't get sued for like 10 years, and then we got sued on that. And, but that's the last one. But we knew in the end we were gonna win. It was just it was too bad it couldn't have gotten through the courts faster.
COVID killed us on the
yeah.
court cases on that
Yeah.
whole thing. Just tied us up.
Anything else anybody thinks they should hit either at town meeting or at FinCom? I left, there's a meeting on for the 15th. I know I have a work obligation that night, but if something went wrong at FinCom, I could communicate it and say, like,
Yeah.
the committee probably needs to meet and maybe discuss if there's some.
I just know there's a lot of confusion out there about money. So people have to understand, and we have to be ready to explain.
Right.
That this money cannot be used to run schools. This is
Yeah.
not money that can be used to run the town. It's just, but people keep thinking, well, how are we spending money to do
Yeah.
this? But you just, one can't be used the other. And it's just the way, I like to just tell everybody, it's like having a gift card to the 99 and trying to go to Demoulas. You just can't, just can't use it.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
That's very,
Yes.
very good.
Yeah. No, so I think, to your point then, I think maybe if I have one slide about CPA funds and how they're limited in use, and the other slide on sort of our balance, and then the third slide will just be, here are the amounts we're asking for and the categories, and
I mean, in the end, the big thing is we want to be on the town meeting warrant after the budget.
yeah.
That's actually important because the first money things that come up is people are going to start to go crazy in the burn.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah.
They can hear.
Yeah, let me see. I can take a look. I have the draft warrant.
I think last year we were early, which is.
Yeah, Mark will package things so that he'll get all the quick things out of the way first, and then big items will be in the tail end. Get a long meeting.
Want me to pull it up, or do we want to?
Yeah, if you're- I'd be curious where we are.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you know
like
when
it or not, what ends up
is the rec-
happening is after a while, people just get exhausted and they wait the stuff through at the end. And I mean, from our perspective, the ideal thing is 1 or 2 questions and done with it and vote. I mean,
Yeah.
You get the internal.
you don't want to talk
Taking-
past the sale is what it comes down to.
Yeah. Just gotta.
I'll
last year with the microphone not working, and we don't know if we're gonna get it going again, and people started leaving, and it was.
Didn't we have an overflow room last year?
Oh, it was packed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will be again this year.
Yep. Yeah, your point's well taken, Terry, about how people will say what they want to say relative to why you're giving that money to the schools, to the children.
I could have sworn I saw it.
What are you pulling up?
I was looking for the, I know I saw the draft warrant.
There's a draft
So-
warrant.
Oh, you know what? It's in the select board. That's where I saw it.
When does that get finalized?
The 14th.
But there's also.
Of April?
What I was thinking about was, yeah, there's an internal
I mean, that, of course.
pegging order document, although it's a draft warrant, that actually rearranges how things are listed. Basically a cheat
Yeah,
sheet.
let me see. Yeah, I had it, and it was just on the select board, so. And as us is Article 9, and, you know, I think that's well
Is
before
that
the
good?
budget. Yeah,
Bad?
that's early. But after the capital improvement act, and after the water, and then before the operating budget.
That's
It's
bad.
not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know why they do it that way, they do all the off enterprise things first, but, you know, I think it's cleaner if you do it after, but,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
be that as it may.
Sometimes, I don't know, sometimes Mark will take a motion to move things up and down.
Yeah. But if it's explained that this money can't be used
Right.
in that other budget,
Yeah.
you know, and people are clear on that, which has been very hard to get clear, but, then it shouldn't matter, but.
Okay. So yeah, I'll put together 3 slides as sort of the, you know, what I intend to present, and then I just have the backup in case anyone has a question about a particular project and what we're trying to do, and I'll get some pictures. And Terry had a good idea too that, you know, I know, I guess in years past, they've had like sort of a field trip to the CPC projects on a Saturday morning. You can just post a meeting and say, we're gonna go here, here, here to look, and, you know, make it public if people wanna tag along.
When was that?
John, we used to do it all the time,
We
right?
used to do it all the time, remember we went out to,
Bring the coffee and-
Rolling Ridge, I
Yeah.
remember that,
Yeah,
yeah.
a whole bunch of
Bring the coffee and donuts?
Yeah.
Might have been known to stop at Stashies out.
But if, you know, if we wanted to do that, we'd still have time to get it done before town meeting, so.
Yeah.
We just have to post it, so. All right, any further motions?
You got minutes?
Oh, yeah, that's right, we have minutes from the 20th.
Zach would have tackled it.
All right, any,
Thanks, Tim.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of was it 20th?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Is that okay?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's what
Okay.
they really want.